Welcome, Democrats, to Sacramento. Thank you for your tremendous hard work stemming the red tide at the Sierra Nevadas. We elected Democrats up and down the ticket and even took a seat back in the state assembly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I think those insurance companies actually had some inkling of what might hit them, because they spent $6 million running me down in commercial after commercial, but I had something they didn't have. I had you. I had the Democratic activists of the state of California, and we overcame their $6 million, and we elected an insurance commissioner who's pledged to protecting consumers and businesses from an industry that has way too much power. Now, it's just 100 days ago that I first took the oath of office, and we have hit the ground running as I promised. One of my top priorities is the implementation of federal health care reform. Now I know, like many of you in this hall, I wanted single-payer universal health care reform. And we are going to continue to work together for exactly that, aren't we? But the reforms we did get are very good reforms. They have a lot of benefits, benefits that Californians are gaining from right now. And we need to move from complaining about what we didn't get to protecting what we did. Because right now, Republicans and conservatives in town halls and in the halls of Congress are trying to tear down the foundation of federal health care reform and prevent us from going to the next step that we wish to reach. Are we going to let them do that? No! Absolutely not. Now, one of the most important elements of the federal health care reform legislation is a provision that requires the insurers to put 80 cents on the premium dollar into actual health care. My goodness, to pay nurses and doctors and hospitals and clinics to provide actual health care instead of insurance profits, overhead, administrative costs, and executive compensation. So in my inauguration, I gave a nice speech, and my beautiful daughter sang as well. But I also issued an emergency regulation right then and there implementing that 80% medical loss ratio requirement here in California, and we're going to hold those insurers accountable for meeting that requirement. Now, another tremendously important benefit of the federal health care reform legislation is a very simple provision that requires that insurers provide health insurance to children, even if that child has a pre-existing medical condition. Absolutely. Before that provision was enacted into law, insurers could say no, and they did routinely. I issued a regulation making sure that we enforce that here in California as well. And we're going to make sure our children have health insurance as they are entitled to under the new federal law. Now, there's a whole list of immediate benefits, and time does not permit my going into those. But take a moment to educate yourselves about them, because they're real, they're immediate, they're making a difference, and to stem this conservative tide seeking to tear away this foundation, we need to educate our communities about what's really in that act and the benefits it's bringing to California. Now, the other thing I've been working on, you may have read a little bit about this, is contending with a whole spate of health insurance rate hikes. In fact, 72 hours after I was sworn in, news broke that Blue Shield was imposing an up to 86% cumulative rate hike on 200,000 California policyholders. Not to be outdone, Anthem Blue Cross announced a rate hike. Aetna, Pacific Care, the list goes on and on. 72 hours after being sworn in, I thought, what happened to the honeymoon period? We took immediate action. We insisted that those health insurers delay those rate hikes by at least 60 days to give your insurance commissioner the chance to review the rate hikes. Now, here's a surprising thing, maybe surprising to some of you. It's a terrible thing. Your insurance commissioner does not have the authority to reject excessive health insurance rate hikes. I have that authority for car insurance, for homeowners insurance, for casualty insurance, and the insurance department has used that for good effect since 1988 when Proposition 103 was passed to save consumers tens of billions of dollars. But I don't have that authority for health insurance. All I can do is review the rates and sentence the health insurers to my website if I think the rate's unreasonable. So review we did, very thoroughly. I demanded every piece of documentation, every financial record, every justification that we could get our hands on. But I did more than that. I insisted on seeing their financial statements. And what we discovered is that the 5 largest health insurance companies have made record profits in 2010. Billions and billions of dollars. Anthem Blue Cross of California alone made a 21% return on equity last year as we are trying to claw our way out of the worst recession that this nation and this state has ever faced. I defy you to find another industry other than the oil industry that's made that kind of money right now. So we reviewed the rates, and we shared our findings with the insurance companies. And the good news is that Blue Shield dropped the third of its 3 rate hikes, and we're saving those consumers $40 million. And Anthem Blue Cross reduced by 6 points its rate hike, and we're saving those 600,000 policyholders $40 million. And just this last week, Aetna announced they have a smaller market share, 40,000 policyholders. They're reducing their rate as well. The cumulative total savings in just 110 days of being in office, $87 million for policyholders in California. Now, imagine what we could do if I actually had some real authority. And that's where I need your help. As a member of the state legislature, I introduced 3 bills to give the insurance commissioner and the Department of Managed Health Care the authority to reject excessive rate hikes. And we're back again this year. My friend and colleague, Assemblymember Mike Fuhrer, has reintroduced that legislation as Assembly Bill 52. And just this last week, we got that bill, with your help, out of the Assembly Health Committee, but the fight is on. There was a line of insurance company lobbyists up the hallway and around the door and out the front steps of the Capitol fighting this legislation. So will you help us pass Assembly Bill 52? When you see a legislator walk in this convention, will you talk to them about Assembly Bill 52? Will you tell them that our insurance commissioner needs the authority to reject excessive health insurance rate hikes? All right. Now, in addition to working on health insurance reform, we've been focusing on a number of important consumer protection reforms as well, and one of those has to deal with seniors. Seniors are our most vulnerable population. There are many ways in which insurance companies have been scamming them, but one way is in the sale of long-term annuities that tie up their money many years after the expected life of that senior. And we've issued regulations to prevent that from happening, but in addition, we've been spending the last 110 days fighting fraud. Fraud costs all of us. It costs consumers, it costs businesses, it's a drag on our economy. And I'm very proud to announce that since I took office, we've racked up 190 arrests for crimes that include auto insurance fraud, fiduciary theft, embezzlement, identity theft, and workers' compensation fraud as a result of investigations by my department. We're going to go after fraud wherever it exists. And in addition, we've been working closely with our brothers and sisters in the labor movement to go after the underground economy, which undermines those employers that are doing the right thing and paying prevailing wage and following the rules. We're going to go after the underground economy in a big way in this administration. And finally, on the fraud front, one of the biggest drags on our economy is actually fraudulent charges by healthcare providers. And earlier this year, I announced the single largest state agency fraud lawsuit in the history of California against Bristol Myers Squibb for a practice of routinely providing kickbacks and illegal inducements to physicians to get them to write more prescriptions. Outrageous. And in addition, just the other week, we joined a lawsuit against Sutter Hospitals, one of the most powerful hospital systems in California with a dominant market share in Northern California, for allegedly illegally charging for anesthesia services in emergency room procedures that didn't actually occur. And we believe that this will result in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of fraudulent billings. So this is just a short example of some of the things your insurance commissioner has been doing. Most of all, I want to say thank you very, very much for the opportunity to serve you and all of California in this way. It's a privilege, it's an honor. We have a lot of great work to do together. And finally, we need you to be a part of the grassroots army that you're already a part of, but extend a little bit and join DEM 2012 and help us build that grassroots funding base that we need to carry this momentum forward to 2012. Thank you, God bless you, and thank you very, very much for giving me the chance to serve.